name is Kevin Dombrock, and I'm on a quest. Hi, my name is Kevin Dombrock, and I'm on a quest. Hi, my name is Kevin Dombrock, and I'm on a quest to figure out if it is feasible to implement the Leave No Trace principles into elementary schools nationwide.
I am somewhere in the city, I am climbing up a fire escape. I am somewhere in the city, I am climbing up a fire escape. I have gotta save my baby from the mess this world has made. I arrive through a window, I leave through a hole in the wall. I arrive through a window, I leave through a hole in the wall. I scramble down the stairwell with my baby, cradle and all. Helicopter, helicopter, let your long rope down. Let us sway into the sunset. I have done all I can do in this town.
I'm interested in exploring these Leave No Trace principles, partly due to my background with Leave No Trace. I guess growing up, I've always been outdoors, camping, hiking, canoeing, you name it. I was doing it, skiing. So I've always just had kind of a deep connection with nature and always been interested in it that way. And then I became a camp counselor. So as a camp counselor, I would take other kids on these kinds of trips as well, camping trips, canoe trips, rock climbing trips, any kind of excursion into the woods. And hand in hand with doing all that, I would teach them kind of the Leave No Trace practices along the way. And then beyond my experience as a camp counselor, I just recently have helped working on research projects on the Leave No Trace principles. Did a study down in Rocky Mountain National Park, gathering visitor opinions and current knowledge of the Leave No Trace principles, basically to see if the LNT organization's educational message is effective or not. So before we get too deep into this movie, I would like to make sure everyone's clear and on the same page, and just give you a brief overview of what the Leave No Trace principles actually are. So there are 7 total principles, and they are: travel and camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly, leave only what you find, minimize campfire impacts, respect wildlife, be considerate of other visitors.
One is that we try to stress that Leave No Trace is not about rules, it's not about regulations, it's
Right.
not black, it's not white. At the end of the day, it's a framework for making good decisions about how to enjoy the outdoors responsibly. Rather than having just a small core group of people doing everything Leave No Trace all the time, we'd rather see everybody that spends time outside just do something small, even just picking up your trash, or make sure your campfire's out, or storing your food properly when you're on a backpacking trip. We'd rather see everybody just doing something, because the cumulative effect of people minimizing their impact is tremendous potential.
Guess what I'm hoping to find? Guess what I'm hoping to learn. Guess what I'm hoping to learn in making this video is direct effects of kids experiencing environmental education and learning in environmental situations. Also, I'd like to get some opinions from educators who are working with children in these kinds of settings, seeing what they have witnessed in their teachings. Also, I would like to go as close to the horse's mouth as possible and get the opinion of the education director at the Leave No Trace Incorporated organization itself. So, let's see what we can find. Hello, I'm on the way down to Boulder, Colorado, heading to the Leave No Trace organization offices. I've got an interview set up with their education director. His name is Ben. I look forward to talking to him. I'm hoping to get his opinions on implementing LNT education into public schools nationwide. Maybe, just figure out the feasibility of doing something like that. Benefits, disadvantages, cost analysis, things like that. Stay tuned for Ben. We made it. This is an official LNT Inc. Subaru, Boulder, Colorado.
So my name is Ben Lawhon. I'm the education director for Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics, and I've been here 10 years. Okay. And I deal with curriculum development, training programs, general outreach efforts, international initiatives, strategic planning, a whole variety of things. Anything that we're doing that relates to education training, I've typically got a hand in.
Okay. What age groups do you have programs for, and how do they work?
Well, historically being 10 or 12 years ago, we focused essentially on more or less adults. Okay. Starting in 2003, we developed a kids program called the PEAK program, promoting environmental awareness in kids. Okay. And so the PEAK program really works for ages, say, 6 to 12. A couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, we created a teen, essentially extension of PEAK that's good for, say, 13 to 17-year-olds. Okay. So essentially what we're doing now is we're covering the full spectrum, from kids in kindergarten all the way up through adults. We have teams of mobile educators called Leave No Trace Traveling Trainers. Put 3 teams of educators on the road every year. They're on the road for up to 11 months out of the year doing outreach, education, and training. That's one of our key programs. We've had that in place for 11 years. Although our roots are in backcountry and wilderness, we now have a much broader focus on front country. We define front country as outdoor areas that are easy to get to by car and mostly visited by day users. Okay. And so essentially about 90% of all outdoor recreation in the U.S. takes place in front country. So it's a logical step for us to move in that direction. So for the past decade, we've been actively building up this front country program where we're trying to create Leave No Trace information that's relevant for people where they're recreating close to home. So they're not out for an extended backpacking trip. They're out for a day hike with their dog. We also have a couple other things going on. We have a program called our Hotspots program, where we solicit nominations for places that are experiencing recreation-related impacts. And we're focusing energy and time and staff resources and educational resources at these places to try to make a difference in a short time frame. And so, for example, our one of the hotspots we worked on this year was the Red River Gorge in Kentucky, which is essentially a world-famous climbing area. And we basically gave them a big shot in the arm of Leave No Trace right there on site to try to help some of the issues they were experiencing with climbing impacts to archaeological and cultural resources, camping, hiking, campfire impacts, a whole variety of things. We have a 3-tiered training structure. We have a 5-day Leave No Trace course. Once you complete that, you can offer a 2-day Leave No Trace course. Then we have a 1-day or shorter, what we call the awareness workshops. Okay. So just to give you a snapshot on that, there's about 5,000 folks that have gone through our 5-day course. There's about 20,000 people that have been through our 2-day, and there's over 1 million that have been through the 1-day. So we have a very diverse suite of programs that we offer in order for us to leverage as much outreach as we can. Okay.
So you'd say most of those programs are just through the Leave No Trace organization. Do you work in conjunction with schools? Or?
We do. I mean, yeah, I would say in most cases we drive the programming. That said, we have over 400 partners. That's not individual members. That's colleges, universities, outfitter guide services, corporate entities like equipment manufacturers, for example. We work with the 5 largest federal land management agencies: the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And we work with a number of state entities. We work with a whole broad network of volunteers, educators, and partners to get Leave No Trace information out to the public.
Are you able to observe any direct effects of your education to the public?
We have a very set feedback loop where we get evaluations from the courses. We know what's going on as far as the course quality, for example. But we also have been involved in research for many years looking at program efficacy. How effective are these programs? How effective is the training, for example? And so there is some empirical scientific data on the effectiveness of our program. So we're trying not to operate in a vacuum. We want to make sure that it works. And so, for example, our 2-day trainer course, in the mid-2000s, we did a study where essentially participants show up for a course on, say, a Saturday morning. They walk in the door and we give them a test before they learn one thing. They take the test. They go through the 2-day, 16-hour course. We give them the same test, the quad course completion. Then we do a follow-up mailing to these folks 4 to 6 months after the course with the exact same test. And then we added a few other things about behavioral change and adoption of ethics and outdoor ethics and that kind of thing. And so essentially what this research showed is that pre and post there was a significant increase in knowledge gain, and even pre and follow-up we had a significant knowledge gain. So essentially what we're showing is that the courses are effective, people are learning new skills, and according to their reported behavior, they're saying, yeah, we're actually putting these into practice. So we definitely look at the efficacy. I mean, that's one of the big drivers of our programs is how effective is it? How many people are using it? How many people are we reaching? What's the effect of we're reaching those people? Are there less impacts on the ground? Are people telling us they're practicing better Leave No Trace? Are we actually seeing that? Are the land managers that are dealing with national parks or forests, are they actually seeing a reduction in the impacts as a result of the effective Leave No Trace messaging or training? And so that's a really important part of what we do, is continually evaluating the effectiveness of our programs.
Have you done those studies throughout all age levels?
We have. I would say the one gap, we haven't done, say, a specific targeted study for 13 to 17-year-olds. We capture some of those participants in other studies because they're on sort of one end of the spectrum or the other. But there's currently a study going on right now that's looking at the effectiveness of our PEAK program, our kids program. We've done a number of studies associated with college and university communities, so we've captured that sort of market, if you will. And then a lot of our studies deal with a broad range of ages, from say 20-year-olds to 65 to 70-year-olds. So we have a pretty good cross-section. I think that really what it boils down to is just continuing to look at overall effectiveness. For example, one of the research projects we're working on this year is looking at the effectiveness of our 5-day Master Educator course. So it'll be a similar model to that trainer course study that I just explained, and it with a similar sort of focus in that we can take and look at the studies comparatively as well. So we can say, all right, so you take a 2-day course and this is how you do, and you take a 5-day course, which we consider to be sort of deep immersion training. You're in there for 5 days, sort of living it, you're in the field. Is there a big difference between a 2-day and a 5-day? Intuitively, we know that people that finish the 5-day, oftentimes they get a lot more time to learn things, you really nail the techniques, you've honed your teaching skills and that sort of thing. So that's one of the things that was going to happen in 11 is initiating that study and then looking at that data.